In 1904, the empires of Japan and Russia would wage war over land in China and Korea, each seeking to bolster their own growing empire. Of course, war comes with death, ending in an estimated total of 200,000 military casualties. While Japan would win the war after over a year in conflict, the actual aftermath of it left many with ever-growing fury, especially when soldiers returned home with little to no reward for their courageous and insane acts, some even being abandoned in poverty. With the years that followed, in Golden Kamuy, we get to see some of the truly vile actions taken in this war, and we see them continue as a new plot for tremendous wealth unfolds. Failing horribly at panning gold, we find Sugimoto, a man recently returned from war and seeking quick fortune. Despite his great courage on the battlefield, he's been left with little compensation for his previous escapades, mainly due to him lashing out at his superiors. We see the truly harsh world Sugimoto was drenched through, one that forced him to kill senselessly to survive, in hoping that his life and death may defend the people of Japan. But of course, it's only left him more broken, Sugimoto being heavy with guilt after not being able to save his childhood friend who died before him in the war. After his friend died, though, Sugimoto sought to find a way of supporting his wife, a girl Sugimoto also knew from his childhood. Supporting his friend's family, maybe this could be a way of redeeming Sugimoto from his guilt, the death he caused. But with no pension from the military, and no way to return to his previous occupation as a soldier, his life is pretty bleak. Luckily though, Sugimoto happens to learn about an old Inu tale, one about a large storage of gold hidden away somewhere. The only clue being found in the tattooed skins of prisoners who conveniently escaped. This will be a great way to make money for Sugimoto, as he did a lot of manhunting for the army, and at the end of the journey, he'll have a load of gold. Of course, like in war, the spoils are never so easily collected. I love Sugimoto. His sort of war nickname is Sugimoto the Immortal, but the series doesn't make this name sound cool. Sugimoto isn't literally immortal, he's just killed everyone before they could kill him. Something he doesn't really enjoy. Sugimoto only kills to survive, and in war, he had to do that a lot. But even though he could protect himself, surviving with several scars, but surviving nonetheless, he couldn't save his friend. He's immortal, but those around him aren't. And that's what's tragic and intense about Sugimoto's character. He seeks to survive, no matter how much worse his life gets, and it effectively adds intrigue to his real motivation. Maybe his motivation is just to survive, to prosper over the nature that's led him to where he is. Either way, the hunt for gold begins, with the first tattooed convict actually being the drunken man who informed Sugimoto of the story, who realized he probably divulged more information than he should have. Instead of Sugimoto killing the convict, he instead discovers he's been killed by a bear, lying in a mound. The setting of Hokkaido is great. While there is civilization, lots of Golden Kamuy is set in the wilderness, where Hokkaido's more ancient life forms lie. Sugimoto didn't learn much about fighting bears in the battlefield, but luckily, we and Sugimoto meet a mysterious hunter who's more acclimated to the environment. After dispatching the bear with a poisoned arrow, we are more formally introduced to this hunter, Asirpa. Asirpa is an Ainu, a native group of people coming from Hokkaido and many other islands in Japan. After a discussion on the tattooed skins, we learned that Asirpa was actually the daughter of one Ainu involved with the gold, although sadly, her father has passed. Not only does this connection bring Sugimoto more tangibly closer to the gold, it also adds a bit more emotional resonance to the gold, as we understand that real people and families were damaged and torn due to this gold. With this one development, the gold plot is a lot more complicated and intense, seeing in it a more personal perspective. As the search for gold continues, the story becomes more grand in scale. Obviously, a vast sum of gold would attract a lot of people, especially for the marked and escaped convicts, but it represents something more. No real normal person is searching for this gold, as they'd most likely believe it's just a folktale, but those who do search for it are most likely at rock bottom. Society has abandoned these people. Whether they're convicts or soldiers, they can't seek a better life through normal terms. This gold is redemption, a way of changing or becoming bigger in the path they already seek. It's not purely about growing rich and growing lazy. For those who search for it, it's a way to become something so large, society can't ignore them. The gold itself isn't evil, but the greed and ambition that it infuses in these people can quickly become vile. There's also a real sense of urgency and desperation in the search for gold, as any wasted time in searching allows for others to sweep up some tattooed skins themselves. Ultimately, This plot really helps energize every action, making them much more intentional, even while we explore seemingly side paths in the story. Sugimoto's journey itself greatly demonstrates the power of the gold. It brings out little bits of character and motivation in Sugimoto as he searches for his future. His world has become miserable, as it's impossible to separate war times from peace when your trauma and struggles follow you through it all. But the gold might allow him to live without killing, something hard to make a living without for veterans like him. But part of this future is found in the Ainu, a people he becomes much closer to through Asirpa's influence along his travels for gold with her. Sugimoto isn't greedy or even that ambitious, but he still seeks a better life. All this time, he's been surviving, but not truly living. Because we see him at his lowest and most fundamental personality, his dream of redemption is much more powerful, as the search for gold leads Sugimoto on his way of bringing his dream to reality. One of the best parts of Golden Kamuy is the duo of Sugimoto and Asirpa, as they have so much chemistry stemming from their survivalist natures and willingness to learn about the other's views. But they still share these separate ideas that may conflict with each other. In a series with so many betrayals and shady characters, it's heartwarming to see Sugimoto and Asirpa work together, especially in the many historical, slice-of-life infused adventures they have along the way. Asirpa herself is a great character as well. She's not just a plot device. She's very independent, but also trusts people easily, such as Sugimoto. While this does lead to a lot of conflicts, it also brings her closer to the people who do actually care for her. She isn't greedy in her search for gold. She's only searching for clues on her father and the rest of the Ainu who died because of the gold. Naturally, due to her father's death and the decaying of her Ainu roots caused by this gold, she sees the gold as something more corrupting and evil. And her relationship with Ainu culture is also interesting to see. She doesn't believe in the Ainu stories and ideas religiously, but seeks more of a pragmatic execution through the teachings. One of the most prevalent ideas is the respect the Ainu have for nature, which she believes protects the Ainu from overexhausting nature's resources in a greed-fueled delirium, something she sees the gold as an antithesis to. As the story continues, Sugimoto and Asirpa encounter others with the same hope of finding gold. Everyone is selfish, but some are more willing to help as they see the strength in numbers. One of my favorite characters aside from Sugimoto and Asirpa is Shiraishi, a several-time escaped convict, also tattooed with the same marks as the other prisoners. They encounter him early on and end up begrudgingly teaming up after a life-or-death situation forces Sugimoto and Shiraishi together. He's the first convict we get to learn about more intimately. His motivations, goals, and personality slowly develop from the very cartoony character he first appears as. One of the great writing techniques is this goofy eccentricness many characters start with. Although it's fairly shallow at first, it still effectively draws out our attention as we see these exaggerated characters, which helps make us care more when they become more developed. Shiraishi is the escape king, self-proclaimed that is, but we come to understand a bit more of the meaning behind his name and talent. He's a man who has a hard time committing to any endeavor because he's a convict always on the run, but he still has greater dreams as well. It's a real tragic conflict in his character. But he slowly grows closer to Asirpa and Sugimoto, and while his motivation for helping is always left to be guessed at, we can tell that he grows through this connection with them, something that he can't run away from, unlike everything else. One of the things that keeps the team of Sugimoto and Asirpa interesting is their different views on people. Sugimoto, through his times in war, has come to distrust others, especially those like him. He views them as selfish opportunists only looking for gold, willing to sell him and Asirpa out at any time. But because of Asirpa's upbringing, she trusts people more, as life in her native village relies on this trust. It's really involving to see Sugimoto learn to trust more, as he can trust Asirpa, but also how Asirpa learns more on the healthy amount of doubt she should apply to the people. This is an important path for Sugimoto, as his trust may lead him in becoming better to redeem his present. And it's also important for Asirpa as we see her grow and mature. This development is especially affecting as it has so much relevance to the plot. When the search for gold continues and new characters join the story, Sugimoto and Asirpa's evolving judgment of people is important. This is just one aspect of Sugimoto and Asirpa's relationship I enjoy so much, how we see them grow through this friendship. The search for gold is also a perfectly simple, yet expanding idea for a plot. Like so much of Golden Kamuy's writing, it starts very straightforward until it becomes more and more thematic of the problems of war. People are intoxicated with the ideas of what this gold and fortune could bring to them, the ever-growing ambition becoming pure fuel to the hearts of many characters. They believe through finding gold, they can make themselves and their close ones happier, and so it leads them to kill, becoming more senseless by every death. But the simple plot to obtain this gold twists, leading to ever-frequent complex issues, one with lines of morality being shaken because of selfishness. Sugimoto and many other soldiers, we learn, went to war with Russia because they became set on the ideas of protecting their country, or some other idea like that. It started so simple. Russia were the bad guys. The land belonged to Japan, rightfully. But these were the same simple ideas that the soldiers they fought believed in. Conflicts are so easily started when you can simplify them to a more objective moral. But it's only after you've made your mistakes and actions that you realize that was all a lie. And it's too late, for your actions will haunt you forever. Sugimoto believed he could find a simple way to repay some of his debts, to help his friends and family, but he only got himself into another war. But it's from what he learns from Asirpa and the Ainu that he's able to actually redeem himself in this war, not sink farther into hell. I love the psychologies of the characters in Golden Kamuy, as we get to examine a more subconscious side to every character through their actions. One specific example I'd have is Surimi. Surimi starts out as a very antagonistic force, being the first person we see who really cares about the tattooed skins and gold, as he set up a whole personal army to search for them. Surimi is an army man, having great leadership skills and tactical knowledge, but he's also become separated from the formal government of Japan to lead his own faction. Surimi is an interesting man. He's innately determined and seemingly has a plan, separating him from the previous characters we've met so far. But his determination also creates a visible obsession in his action. He always has to be in control, and he has a very way of obtaining this top position. Whether through the emotional manipulation he's able to employ, or the intimidating derangedness he can slip into, he is very unpredictable in his actions. The emotional obsessiveness to be on top, and his rational determination to seek through his plans, are always in display for his decisions. Rather than a binary of emotion or rationality, we have a gradient in all of his actions. His character design also emphasizes this duality, his plight always being a reminder of the trauma he endured and the literal pieces of his body lost in war. Through the story, these lines of emotionality and rationality are displayed and then blurred, as it becomes more obvious that every character and their actions are a mix of both. Shirimi's emotions may have invented his ideas of being a leader of his army and even Japan, but it also might have been these ideas that implanted in him his sporadic emotional states. These ideas are also expanded upon in flashbacks, as we get to see many characters' philosophies or upbringings before the war, and thus we can see the real change that the war's trauma has inflicted upon them, and also the motivation in how they seek to right their wrongs, or become better through the search for gold, possibly to even return to their life before war with a new understanding. The war has left the veterans in a situation none of them expected: societal indifference. For some, they seek a life they might have once had, or one that they were promised after war. A family and community that supports them, an occupation that provides life and not death. For them, integrating is difficult, as we see with Sugimoto. They assume you have some pension that you don't, or that you will just continue in killing. And that is what some others do. They stick to what they did for years: kill. They believe that it's necessary, and that only they can do it. Change. That's what the story's about. Can you really revert back to normalcy after the trauma you've experienced in war? The death and destruction you witnessed, experienced, and took place in? Or redemption? Is redemption through good deeds possible? Can you be absolved? Or make the painful regret dissipate? Or should you just sink farther into hell? After all, you might be on a front row seat towards it. Aside from the writing, the art and visual side of Golden Kamuy is also excellent. I love the action in this manga due to the real intentionally constructed paneling that makes your eyes flow across the page easily. I love how often people lose body parts such as their fingers and eyes. It feeds back into the reoccurring theme of what war and conflict takes away from our characters, time after time, as they appear permanently weaker. The stretch and pull of moving objects also helps create movement and action, adding more impact to forces. Overall, the pages are incredibly well paced in these high action moments. There's also an excellent calm and sereneness to the art through the peaceful settings or happy smiles. It's these more wholesome slice of life times that adds weight to the tragedy, while also beautifully showcasing how great life can be for our characters in these small moments. Character designs are also very unique and stylistic, their faces drawing them distinct from other characters, which is really important as we have groups of several characters all wearing the same uniforms at times. Faces themselves can also portray a wide range of emotion in this art, with many creases and wrinkles painting the faces of characters as they get angry or upset, although this can also be used to create humored expressions as well. There's also a powerful resoluteness that comes from the unwrinkled faces of our characters, showing their complete confidence in their plans. The art just perfectly enhances the journey of reading the manga, especially in the brilliance of its pacing. The visuals enhance the story in so many ways, making the themes and characters connect with us so much more. In closing, here are my final thoughts. The plot of Golden Kamuy is great in my opinion. It's like a western where people's alliances are not static, rather people betray and kill just to get close to their goal. And the plot's escalation gradually kicks everything into overdrive as we come closer to the goal, and people become paranoid about losing everything. The characters have deep reasons for what they want, and due to their current state, the only real way to achieve this is through these violent means. But that's also what makes characters like Asirpa and Sugimoto so powerful, because they hold on to what's human through all these trials. As characters develop, or our understanding of them develops, characters react to these changes, making the world so lively and beautiful. The story really drives these characters, making them expose more and more of themselves in a natural way, instead of the story just taking a backseat to the characters. I believe it's a perfect balance of cooperation between the two. It really just feels like a great journey through Japan, as we see so many landscapes and cities filled with people or wild beasts. It's amazing. I'm going to have to give this a 9 out of 10 for just the amazing characters and story and the just perfect journey that Golden Kamuy shows. Yeah. Thanks for 100 subscribers. I haven't made a video in a while, but, hope you enjoyed this one. Have a good summer. Yeah, maybe I'll make another one this summer. I'll see you. Bye. Oh, also subscribe, please, if you haven't, and liked, and comment, and, I don't know.